Hello, this is Xbox Ahoy, and it's time for another installment of bonus footage. Yes, I know I'm behind. Yes, I'm trying to catch up. But, you know, I've had other stuff to catch up on as well. The attachment guides, I got behind with those. And it's only really just now that I'm starting to make some headway. This is one of the dangers of me buying a larger hard drive to store my footage on. I've now got 3 terabytes, which, well, I can store quite a few weapons worth of footage with that. So obviously I've got all of this SCAR footage still on there, and I've got everything up to most of the M8A1 now. That's done now. But I'm closing in on my last sort of 500 gigabytes, so it's getting to the point where I might actually have to clear out some footage and produce a bonus video, and so here we are. I'd really like to do another one of these this week, but we'll see how things pan out. I'm a man who is easily distracted. And aside from a general lack of productivity, I'm also looking forward to future projects, to stuff beyond the weapon guides. So I've been planning, researching, and doing other stuff that I really shouldn't be doing because I need to focus on finishing the series at hand. But, you know, that's how it is. Also, well, as I told you last time, I'm working on a game. At some point, probably fairly soon after the series wraps up, I'm probably going to do a reveal video for the progress so far. And I'm going to work on it over the summer. I should have a bit more time then. And hopefully we'll have a bit of a roadmap to a kind of a public alpha. I don't know. We'll see anyway. I don't want to release it too early, but if I ever get the luxury of time to sort of do regular development work on it, I'll probably start doing update videos, that sort of thing, and we can see some progress there. The basics of the game are nearly in place. There's a lot of temporary art, and there's a lot of stuff that I plan to do that isn't done, but it's coming along. But anyway, there's me again, focusing on the exciting future projects, and when I should be focusing on Black Ops 2, and of course, your questions. Now, these are a bit old now, they're from the Scar Age video, but they're questions nonetheless. First up from James Shah 520. Stu, do you think that Black Ops 2 is one of the worst games you ever played? Simple answer, no. I've played a lot of bad games, and, well, let's be honest here, Black Ops 2 it's not a bad game, and this is one of the comments that annoys me. The principal reason that comments like this annoy me is because I see them all the time, especially, I actually read a lot of my comments as they come in, and it feels like almost every single day on the worst Xbox 360 games video that I posted, which was a fun video. I enjoyed that, and it was something other than Black Ops, which, you know, was a refreshment. But I don't know, there's something about the video that just prompts people to post the same comment over and over again. Oh, where's Black Ops 2? Where's Call of Duty? I explicitly stated the rules. It was by Metacritic score, thereby absolving me of any choice of the worst games. To be perfectly honest, it was more of a scientific exercise to actually try out the worst critically acclaimed games this generation. I know Metacritic is flawed, I know it is, but nevertheless, I thought it would be interesting to look at the very bottom of the pile, the games that have been the worst received over the last few years. And it was pretty interesting, I think. But we established the rules, worst games according to the Metacritic score, okay? That's the premise of the video. Do you know what the Metacritic score for Modern Warfare 3 is on the Xbox? It's 88 out of 100. That's pretty high! Alright, what about Black Ops 2? Well, that's actually a bit lower, surprisingly low actually, because, well, Black Ops 2 is a better game than Modern Warfare 3, in my opinion. But that's got 83 out of 100, which is still a very high score. As far as critical reception is concerned, none of the Call of Duty games are bad. They all review really well, that's why they continue to be made. I think the issue is people have trouble understanding what the difference between something which is genuinely bad and flawed to something which is trite, overdone, and otherwise a tired formula. Call of Duty is definitely the latter. There have been so many Call of Duty games, and the formula is, well, it stays the same. I mean, from the developer's point of view, they're kind of boxed in. They can't change the mechanics of Call of Duty because then it wouldn't be a familiar Call of Duty game, and the people who like familiar Call of Duty games would be disappointed. I think to really move forward, what Call of Duty needs to do is take stuff away. Instead of adding more features, they need to pare it back. They need to simplify and purify focus. It's what I'd do anyway. I mean, I'd probably remove score streaks. Which is, I mean, that's, ooh, people wouldn't like that. Oh no, no score streaks. What's the reason for playing? I would also remove an awful lot of game modes. There are too many game modes in Call of Duty, and I mean, how do you balance maps for 20 different game modes? The answer is you don't. Well, you can try, but whether you'll be successful, I don't know, it's a complex mess. But again, new game, Purity, focus, maybe just focus on a single game type, whether it's deathmatch or something along those lines. I don't know. Like, look at Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike's maps are designed for one game mode. I mean, the game mode is tied to the map. That way, it can be better balanced, and there's no need for this added complexity that Call of Duty introduces. Anyway, I've gone off topic. Is Call of Duty a bad game? Not really, no. I mean, let's be honest here, right? Black Ops 2, what do you get with your $60 purchase? You get a game which, at its fundamentals, has a AAA graphics and sound budget, has a cinematic single-player campaign, has super slick controls, better than anything else available on the consoles. You also get an active and diverse multiplayer. You've also got zombies with Black Ops 2. Compared to other games, it's a bargain. It's well rehearsed, it's tired, it's overdone, sure, but no, Black Ops 2 is not a bad game. And stop posting that comment on the worst Xbox 360 games video, because I'm sick of it. You're not even funny. And alright, look, it's okay. It's okay if you don't like Black Ops 2. It's okay to have an opinion. It really is. But that doesn't mean you can deride other people's opinions. So I'm of the opinion that Black Ops 2 is not a bad game, and I think there's some fairly strong arguments to say that it is. It's so well rehearsed, it couldn't be a bad game. I suppose that makes you think, really, doesn't it? I mean, if you release a good game, it's a good game, sure. If you release a good game 10 times with relatively minor changes, is it still a good game? I'll leave that question hanging. I've been on this for too long. Mr. Skuld asks, "Hello Stuart, me, your humble subscriber, would like to ask if you are going to make a video about the 2 new camouflages available for purchase in the Black Ops 2 game." Short answer, probably not. No, not at this stage. It doesn't fit in with my schedule. The way things are panning out, the last attachment guide comes the week before the AN94, the final video, and I kind of want the AN94 to be the final video. I don't want to have like a hanging tail of the last attachment guide. I want the AN94 to be the glorious send-off that this series deserves. Couple that with the fact that, you know, I'm looking forward to wrapping this series up now. I don't really want to add any additional work into the pile. And any essence of timeliness has long been lost, so I'm sure there are plenty of videos covering the new camos out there already. So there you go, no videos for the Dragon or the Cyborg. Player cards, camos, reticles, that sort of thing. But you can probably guess what the puns were. You know, blah blah blah, this scaly option, blah 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 blah, breathe fire, blah 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 blah. Cyborg, half man, half machine, blah 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 blah. Electrify your opponents. Yeah, there's pretty basic stuff really. Kentucky Fried Gaming asks, "Stu, which bands or artists have you been listening to as of late, if any? You should give the Strokes a listen if you've not already." I'm familiar with the Strokes. I used to play Last Night a lot when I was a student DJ. That was one of the most requested songs for a while. But I don't know, the Strokes, they're not really my cup of tea, and they're alright, but not what I'd listen to by choice. So what have I been listening to? A couple of days ago, I was on a bit of a 90s industrial kick. I was listening to some 9 Inch Nails albums, some of the earlier, the more popular stuff, you know. Also some Ministry as well. Ministry aren't as good as 9 Inch Nails, but they're alright. And some Placebo as well, although disappointingly Placebo aren't on Spotify, at least not fully. I've been playing some Muse as well recently. Muse are good. Prior to that, and slightly more unusually, I've been getting into some Polish electronica. For some reason, Last.fm has been recommending a lot of Polish music. Mostly electronica, which I quite like a bit of electronica. So I've been listening to a bit of a group called My Lupa, and I also really like an album by a band called Ozzy Barak, which I believe is the Hungarian word for peach. They're a Polish band, but they have a Hungarian name. I don't know. Anyway, they have an album called Plim Plum Plam, and I must say I rather liked it. It's kind of eclectic, it's very varied, it has a lot of energy, and it's nice. I enjoyed it, and I thoroughly recommend it. Unfortunately, I wasn't particularly enamoured with their other albums, but sometimes that's the way it goes, you know? Some bands you like everything they do, some bands you just like a bit of their work, and that's okay. So yes, that's a brief summary of the stuff I've been listening to of late. Nike Products asks, "Hey Stu, how many kills did you get with the sensor grenade?" That's right, with the Scar H, I recommended the sensor grenades for the first time, and, well, probably the last time, truth be told. They're not bad, actually. They are kind of useful. But they are a little bit quirky, and you do need to get used to them before you can actually get away with, using them effectively. One interesting thing about the sensor grenades is that when they expire, they explode. and they deal a relatively small amount of damage. I'm not sure of the figure off the top of my head. I think it's 15 damage. It depends on how far away the enemy is from the centre of the blast, but it quite often will finish off a wounded opponent. It's pretty good. I think I got 3 kills in total with the sensor grenades. All in, not a bad deal. Points out enemies and occasionally explodes and kills them. Marius Weber asks, what's your favourite car, Stu? Do you know, I've been playing a lot of driving games recently. I think I'm kind of excited for Forza 5. So I bought Grid 2 on release and I've completed that. I quite enjoyed that. I've got to say, it started off really strong and then it got kind of boring and repetitive towards the end. And, well, the ending was kind of disappointing. In so much as racing games have ends. I also been replaying some Forza 4, picking up some events from the event list that I'm never going to finish. And I also picked up, relatively cheap, Need for Speed Shift 2 Unleashed, or whatever it's called. Which, well, I really liked the first Shift, but Shift 2 just feels rushed. I think they pushed the sequel out too quickly. I don't know, I think Shift was received really well, and then they kind of capitalised on that and tried to get the sequel out. I think it was the next year. It really didn't seem very long after the first one came out. So I didn't pick it up originally. I bought Need for Speed Shift New, but I didn't bother with the second one because, well, I just wasn't bothered. I'm talking about driving games because, of course, I don't actually drive in real life. So as far as cars and whatnot are concerned, my only real experience with a broad set of cars is in racing games. And I find one of the types of car that I always gravitate towards in racing games is kind of the super lights. I really like stuff like the Ariel Atom. My favourite car, I think, might be the Caterham. I mean, they all look the same, so I don't really have a favourite model. I suppose the fastest one might be my favourite. But in general, the lightweight cars, they all handle really well. They're all pretty nippy, they've got great acceleration, and they're fun to drive. I like them. It seems like the, car du jour that's in every single racing game is the Bugatti Veyron. But I don't know, it's always boring to drive. It's kind of heavy. Sure, it'll take you to 250 miles an hour, but it's boring. I like the nippier, more responsive cars. I really enjoyed in Dirt 2, there's a BAC Mono. That was a nice little car. Very nice, balanced handling. Quite nippy. I think I used that one whenever I had the chance. Oh, actually, speaking of lightweight cars, Forza 5 will be the first in the series that has open-wheel cars, so that'll be nice. I am also kind of looking forward to Drive Club on the PS4, although I'm thinking that Forza 5 is probably going to be my preferred title. I don't know. I mean, I know MotorStorm, that's what the Drive Club guys did before Drive Club. I think they did the MotorStorm series on PS3. I know that was supposed to be a pretty good game, but as far as racing games, I don't know if they've got the pedigree. At least not to the same degree that Turn 10 might have. Cal Jr. 82 asks, Stu, marry, date or dump? Emma Watson, Kate Winslet, Keira Knightley. Oh, alright then. I would probably marry Kate Winslet. She's kind of got that girl next door thing going on, and she's more my age, for one. And she has a certain appeal, from the scene in Titanic, or the scenes in Titanic, if you'd like. Otherwise, she actually seems like the most sane of the three, and otherwise, the prime candidate for marriage. So, next up, date. I would probably go with Keira Knightley. Again, more so because of the age difference. Emma Watson's a little bit young, isn't she? For me, at least. Whereas Keira Knightley, closer to my age, and she's also very glam. The sort of girl that you want to take out on your arm to a nice restaurant or something. She'd fit right in. Kate Winslet, you take her to Burger King. Keira Knightley, you take her somewhere nice. So of course that, by the process of elimination, leaves Emma Watson, dump. She's too young. Come on! Like in the first Harry Potter film, she was like 12. I appreciate that she's legal now, but to me she's still too young. Oh, and if Kate Winslet is watching, I will take you up on that Burger King offer. I'm absolutely serious. Darkshot223 asks, Stu, are the sensor grenades useful, or did you put it in there as you had to? We just touched on this. Yes, they are kind of useful. They're maybe not as good as they should be, but with the class concept with the Scar, the penetration build, if you like, being able to position enemies behind a wall, well, let's just say that's a useful trait, so it fitted in with the class concept. I didn't have to recommend them. I don't have to recommend anything. I wonder sometimes if people think that I've got Treyarch on the phone saying, Stu, you've not recommended the tactical knife yet. I want to see it in the next build or you're fired. No, that doesn't happen. I'm entirely free to choose my own loadouts. I really am. If I ever do choose something that you think is out of place, either you're undervaluing it, or it fits in with the class concept, or I wanted to mix things up a little bit. You know, there's no harm with a bit of variety, and, you know, sometimes I try and work in stuff that works, but isn't necessarily conventional. Turtle with an M16 asks, will you be doing a video or series of videos for Forza 5? It's a possibility. It depends on release dates and how everything sort of interacts and fits together. If Call of Duty Ghosts and Battlefield 4 are out, then it's going to be tough to warrant spending the time. But I would like to do some content for a car game, because I'm of the belief that that's kind of a large untapped market on YouTube. If you think about it, I mean, a lot of people enjoy driving games. There's a big market out there for them. But as far as YouTube presence, there isn't that much, unless I'm just not aware of it. But if you think Call of Duty, huge. Battlefield's huge. League of Legends, huge. Even Team Fortress has a bit of a YouTube thing going on. Stuff like Minecraft, absolutely huge. And then you've got the sports games. FIFA has a huge following. But when it comes to driving games, I can't think of a single channel that's focused on that. At least not a major one. So either the games simply aren't suited to video production, or there's an untapped market there, and I'm not sure which it is. So I wouldn't mind. I'm not sure what I'd do for something like Forza 5. I think the best angle for a car game on YouTube would be the competitive aspect. But I don't know if that's something I want to pursue. But that's not really my style. I'd probably, I don't know, I'd go for more of a vehicle guide or a manufacturer guide, which I think is probably the most likely option, is doing it by manufacturer. Just breaking down, you know, stuff like the Audis that are on offer, the Ferraris, the Porsches, that sort of thing. Would that be interesting? I don't know if it would be interesting. I think if you sort of slipped in a little bit of the manufacturer history and, you know, talked about some of the more interesting cars on offer, slip in some vital statistics, maybe, you know, have some slides for each of the cars, you could maybe make an interesting video out of it. I don't know though, I'd have to pilot it and see how it went down. For me, it's unexplored territory. But it is something that I wouldn't mind broaching at some point. But as ever, I promise nothing, for there'll probably be something else which occludes it. IIDJHD asks, Stu, how come you don't use toughness on weapons? I do use toughness on weapons. I recommend toughness all the time. It's probably in 50% of my builds. It's a very good perk. For anything that requires you to be both aimed in and engage at a mid to long range, toughness is pretty much essential. I think with the Scar we went for Scavenger, but that's because we're firing blind and we need the supply. Although actually it seems, reviewing the video, I did recommend toughness. What do you want? I recommended it for the long range assault rifle. I recommend it for most. I recommended it for the SMR. Now for your close range weapons, it's probably a waste. Like with the Cap 40, not needed. The Scorpion, not needed. It's Scavenger for those weapons. I know people have the things that they can't live without, and for many people it's toughness. And that's fine, but it's less useful on some weapons than it is on others. Like with the Ballista, I chose not to go for toughness because, I don't know, it feels less necessary on the snipers for some reason. I think the way the flinch works with the scopes must be slightly different. And anyway, it was an aggressive class. It was about getting the first shot on target. And it's the class I use, and it worked just fine for me. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to recommend toughness on everything. I know a lot of people like it on everything. A lot of people like the stock on everything. But I can't recommend it every single build, because I like to keep things varied. And there's more than one way to play this game. Balisong Gamer asks, what was the first FPS game you ever played? You know, this question got me thinking, because back in my day, we didn't call them FPS games. We call them Doom clones, because, well, Doom, shall we say, inspired a lot of copycats, much in the way that Call of Duty copies itself. Doom was cloned and reproduced, and eventually that became the first-person shooter genre that we know today. But it wasn't until, like, the end of the 90s, really, when Doom clones started to fade away and FPS kind of entered the lexicon. Even then, early millennium. it took a little while for the terms to change over. And as you go further and further back, it kind of gets difficult to sort of draw the line as to, you know, what is a first-person shooter game when they're not called first-person shooter games. I mean, I've played some games that were from a first-person perspective and you could shoot things, but they weren't in 3D. They were in pseudo 3D, like Dungeon Master and all the Dungeon Master clones. Well, admittedly, that was kind of fantasy, so it was more focused on stuff like swords and daggers. But you can also get arrows and you can shoot things from a first-person perspective. But otherwise, the fact that it's not in true 3D and the movement is stepped rather than smooth kind of distances it from the FPS genre. So, thinking about the first game that I can think of that was actually considered an FPS game post facto, probably Wolfenstein 3D. That game was released in 1992. I probably played it at some point over the next couple of years. Doom, which was released in 1993. Again, I probably played that some point before 1995. Couldn't tell you exactly when. So yeah, that's the sort of time I was playing the first games that are now considered FPS games. I also have fond memories of a game called Marathon, which is actually an early Bungie game that was released exclusively for the Macintosh. That was released in 1994, probably played that in 94, 95, sometime around then. At this sort of time I was a big Amiga gamer, and of course with the influence of Doom, the Amiga had more than its fair share of Doom clones as well. The most explicit was one called Gloom, which was actually pretty good fun. I mean, the Amiga graphics hardware wasn't best suited to 3D graphics, so it struggled a little bit in terms of visual fidelity, but it was still good fun. Alien Breed 3D was another one around the same time. That was pretty good. More realistic, you know, well, I say realistic, you were shooting aliens. So, to summarise, yeah, my induction to the world of FPS was probably in the mid-90s sometime, but these details have been lost to the passage of time. I got my first 3D card, I think it was 1998, 99. I picked up Half-Life, the first, with a Voodoo 2 graphics card, and it was awesome. And of course, once 3D acceleration hit the shelves, every other game was a first-person shooter. And everything went really brown for a while. I blame Quake for that one. PSN Boss 10,000 asks, Dear Mr. Ahoy, what is your opinion on the Kerbal Space Program? Do you think it's the next Minecraft? Well, presumably by the next Minecraft you mean a sort of a hit sensation on YouTube and all the other tubes. And what I love Kerbal Space Program, I think it's a really interesting and challenging game. I don't think it's the next Minecraft. It's not quite as accessible as a game would need to be to challenge Minecraft's popularity. But nevertheless, it is very, very cool. I do own it. I've got it on Steam, and I've not played as much as I like, but I've managed to get some Kerbals into space. Well, I'm less good at getting them back, but you know, that's something you can work on. And I do love the sort of the sandbox nature of it, the freedom to create whatever sort of spacecraft you like and then just launch it. It's fun, really is. I do think it's a little bit maybe technical for as far as accessibility is concerned. I mean, I didn't even know what the word prograde meant prior to playing this game. And you're playing the tutorial and it's teaching you how to adjust orbits by applying prograde or retrograde thrust and how to transition from a lower orbit to a higher orbit and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, whoa, this is pretty technical. It's cool, but this is you need to spend some time to get good at this. Anyway, I'm glad they're still developing it. I'm curious to see sort of how it develops and what the career mode's going to be like. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth checking out, definitely. But it's definitely not pick up and play like Minecraft is. Mortorotu asks, I thought the Scar H tended to have 20 round mags and the Scar L had 30s. Well, that has been the trend in most of the games so far, but obviously, with 30 rounds in Black Ops 2, the Scar H has bucked the trend. But it's not, you know, it's not unrealistic. They do exist, 30 round 7.62 magazines. I guess they're just a bit bigger and a bit heavier. I do think, if the Scar H, if it only had 20 rounds, it might be a little bit underpowered. I think it would need a buff to be competitive with 20 round mags instead of 30. So it's, game balance has to come first. I think Treyarch discovered that people really dislike 20 round magazines with all of the SMGs in the first Black Ops. Abid K28 asks, have you ever seen someone use one of your setups in-game? Well, it's hard to tell, to the precise details, but I certainly get recognised from time to time, so there are people out there who know of me, and I'm sure somebody's tried one of my loadouts out there. What I do find tends to happen is that if I'm using a weapon extensively, like if I'm levelling it up and getting it gold and all the rest of it, quite often people will join me in using that weapon, if only just to get a kill on me with the weapon that I'm using. Which, I don't know, I kind of find it annoying. It's like I was using the SMR, then all of a sudden I noticed like half the people on the opposing team are using SMRs. It's like, really? I have to use this gun. Use your own gun. Jason61499 asks, Mr. Brown, can you answer 10 questions in 30 seconds? Well, let's see about that. Are you ready? Start the clocks. No. I don't even have 10 questions left. The Louis98 says, Hello Stu, I have a few questions of cars. 1. What cars have you owned? None. Never owned a car. Question 2. Do you watch Top Gear? Yes, I do. I watched the season premiere of season 20 last night. I do keep up to date with Top Gear. I think I've watched every single episode of the new series. I mean, at this point, it's not so much a car show as it is the Jeremy Clarkson show, but it's all good. Number 3. Do you follow any motorsport? I dip in and out of Formula 1. I'm not entirely disinterested in that sort of thing. And occasionally I dip into MotoGP as well. I do rather enjoy going to Donington to actually watch the MotoGP. That's quite good fun. And I know some of the drivers, but I'm not that involved with it. But I do enjoy spectating a spot of the motorsports. Mostly, it's the sounds and the sights and the thrills and the smells and the crashes and, that sort of thing. It's all jolly good fun. Hijacker014 asks, Stu, are you a Grand Theft Auto fan? And if COD failed, would you do a vehicle guide for Grand Theft Auto? If not, why? I do like GTA. I've played pretty much every single GTA title that there is. I bought a PSP for Liberty City Stories. And I played the first one. I haven't played the London add-on. I could never afford it. Back then, I didn't have a job. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the GTA series. I probably wouldn't do a vehicle guide for it, though. The dynamic is different. Like with Call of Duty, you choose a weapon. A weapon is really the basis for a loadout, for a way to play the game. Whereas with Grand Theft Auto, a vehicle is more of a thing that you use to escape a bank robbery. It's less of a conscious decision. I don't know what I'd do if I did Grand Theft Auto videos. I'm not sure what I'd do. I suppose there's the multiplayer aspect. That's probably the more fertile area. Other than that, I'm honestly not too sure how I'd approach GTA. I suppose you could maybe do a one-off video detailing the weapons on offer, but yeah, beyond that, I don't know. Ian Liu asks, you mentioned you had recorded footage of Bioshock Infinite a while ago. Will you put that footage up after your playthrough of Metro Last Light? I do have it, yes. It's sitting on my hard drive taking up space. It's about 8 hours or something of... Well, no, it's not quite that much. It's about 3 hours of footage. But still, it's 3 hours of footage that I have to review and edit, that I don't have the time to do, unfortunately. But I'm not going to let it go to waste. I might dig it out and finish off a video. Probably once I'm done with this weapon guide series. I have a lot of stuff to catch up on. I've got a Drinks Ahoy special. I'm planning a stupid cat video for this channel. A few other bits and bobs. I've got so many ideas and just not enough time to do them all, but I will catch up. I've got obviously bonus footage to catch up on. That's probably enough to keep me going for the next month or two. But otherwise I'll be, trying to sort of come up with some new content for the main channel so that I can maneuver my video output to support me for the next generation as well as this gen. But yeah, I'll catch up with these things and hopefully I'll get them out at some point. Unless I don't, in which case, forget I promised anything. Mirig Bolshevik asks, Stu, did you pre-order Ghosts for the current generation consoles or the next generation consoles? Next gen, Xbox One to be specific. I mean, I am getting both the PS4 and the Xbox, so really it doesn't matter. But I'm more invested on the achievement side of things, so I'd like to stick with my Xbox profile as my primary platform if I can. The Gizmo 302 asks, Stu, what do you think about that new reveal that COD Ghosts is not actually running on a new engine? Activision wrote it in one of their articles and it's kind of disappointing to say the least. They just called it new because they upgraded it so much. It's practically new, but not quite. I think a lot of people have a fundamental misunderstanding of what a game engine actually is. it's not really anything to do with all of the juicy features and the gameplay aspects. That's kind of on top of the engine. The engine just handles the boring stuff, you know, stuff like the texture pipeline and the graphics and the texturing. And the thing is, right, everything's iterative, like the new graphics hardware is still fundamentally very, very similar to the Xbox 360's graphics hardware. I mean, sure, it's AMD now and not Nvidia, but it's a similar base feature set. There may be additions, and this is where the upgrades to the engine come from. Otherwise, trust me, you don't want a new engine. You want to stick with the proven stuff. You want to focus on the gameplay aspects, the actual differences that make a difference. Trust me, the engine is not the problem with Call of Duty. It's very polished, it's very slick, it does everything they need, and of course all of their tools, all of the dev tools they've got, will be designed to work with the engine. So if you were to change engines, you'd have a whole bunch of inertial things to do, like rewriting all of the dev tools. It's just not worth it. It really isn't. For what gain? Well, none, basically, because you can just upgrade your existing engine to cope with any new graphics hardware. Anyway, that's the long and the short of it, and this is a particularly long bonus footage. But the good news is, at least for me, is that it's now come to an end. I have run out of footage. So I shall bid you farewell, and I will say that this week we have 4 videos going live on the main channel. That's right. 3 attachment guides, I'm catching up, and this Scorpion Evo weapon guide. I'd like to say that I'm going to get another bonus video out this week, maybe another 2, who knows? But I can promise nothing. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.